Welcome to Marlene's Atelier. In this lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to baste and machine our beautiful lining for the pencil skirt together. Remember, we have a little bit of inlay there, so it's a bit trickier than normal. But I'm going to share my technique so that you get it right every time. You won't want to miss this lesson. That's what's happening today in the Atelier. So we're back and we have our lining now, and what we want to do is start out, because it's gotten a little wrinkly and I don't think that I pressed out my darts. So what I'm going to do is come in here and give these darts a nice press. Now, we cannot use water on this lining because it will stain. It'll leave a big water spot, okay? So, and we don't need a press cloth because the lining is shiny enough as it is, right? So all we can do is come in here and open our seam up underneath first. And again, I'm pressing this towards the side seam, okay? And then I can come and open them up the rest of the way here. So we really don't want any overlap at all. Okay? I wish I could put a little water on this, but unfortunately, it just won't tolerate it. So we have to just do what we can do. And of course now, I want to just get some of these wrinkles out of here because they're just going to be a nuisance. Just going to be a big nuisance. All right, so let's get all that pressed out and get this prepared for machining. This is the back of my skirt, okay? All right, so now here's our strategy. A couple of things. When we put the lining inside the skirt, okay, we're going to be taking our hem up. And if you remember, if you can see here, see how I had that little slit? I gave it a notch when we were doing the lining. That is where my hem is, or my length, okay? Now, what I want to do is I want to be able to turn up my length on my skirt, okay? And I want to turn it up, and I want to be able to machine it by folding the edge in like this, okay? But I don't want the lining to be seen, obviously, when I put it inside, right? So if I folded it up right where my notch was, right here, okay, chances are that when I go to sew this, you're going to see the lining come through, right? So here's our plan. What we're going to do is we're going to sew the back of the waistcoat together first. We're going to make sure that we know exactly where our notches are for the bottom of the zipper and for the bottom or the top of the kick pleat. Those 2 points are really important. So that's step one. Once we have the back sewn together, we'll bring the front on and we'll machine the front to the back, okay? Once we have both the front and the back sewn together, then what we're going to do is we're going to turn up the length. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up 1 centimeter, okay, from my notch, my length notch. And I'm going to press it out really nice all the way around so it's really even, okay? And I'll show you. So I'm just going to do something like this. I'm going to bring it up a centimeter. I'm going to press it like so it's nice and flat and nice. Okay? We're going to turn the edge in like this, about a centimeter here, okay? And I'll just show you here, because it's going to be a lot easier if you see what I'm talking about here than when the whole lining is put together. It's going to be a little tough. So here, I'm just going to press this a centimeter back, like this. We'll do it all the way around, okay? And then what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll machine this. We're going to top stitch it all across here. Now this will be around the whole bottom of the skirt. And then all we have to do, after we have all that done, which is going to be super cool, is we'll baste it to the top of the skirt, okay? We'll baste it up around the top here. Just giving you the whole plan, okay? Baste it around the whole top of the skirt here, so it's held in. And then the last thing that we'll need to do is we'll need to go in and miter out the vent, okay? So that we'll have to cut the vent back a little bit in order to turn it in here and here, all right? So there's quite a bit to do with the lining. So we're just gonna take it step by step, okay? It's almost like you're making another skirt inside the skirt, except it's not quite as hard or detailed, okay? But I just wanted to kind of give you a little idea of what's in store or what's ahead so that you can kind of give some thought to that as we're walking through what we're doing here, okay? All right, good. I like to have a plan. Planning and preparation in tailoring is everything, right? You gotta have a good plan. All right, so here we're gonna press out the other back. Let's see if I can do a little bit of a better job this time so I don't have as much over, like folding stuff over. I think I can do a better job. I hope so. All right. Let's see how that looks. On this side, there we go. Just open that up a little bit there. There we go. Much better. Okay, and we'll just press all these little wrinkles out real quick so that the inside cooperates with us. There we go. It's such a pretty lining. It's just such a shame. It's such a pain to work with. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look for our balance lines here, okay? If you can see, here's my waist balance line, okay? Here's where my zipper ends right here, okay? Here's my hip/seat, and of course, we know that this is the top of the vent, okay? And lastly, of course, is our length line, as we've established. Now, one last thing I want to do is I just want to check, because I want to double check where I believe when we put this vent in, I believe our vent length was 22 centimeters. And I just want to double check that. God, and it is. Isn't that great? She's still got a memory. I haven't lost it yet. Okay, so 22 centimeters up from the length, okay? So my length line is here. So I'm just measuring up 22 centimeters from that point, okay? And I'll do that on here as well, on this side, because I want to be spot on when it comes to where I'm sewing to and from, because there's not a lot to sew back here, right? I mean, it's just, remember, it was like hardly anything from one point to the next. So there, and we can just take a couple of pins okay? Just to hold this together here real quick. Now, I believe if you wanted to baste your lining together before you sew it, that's absolutely positively acceptable, okay? In fact, I highly recommend if you're just starting out working with lining that you do baste it, okay? And it would be, you would go through actually the same exact process as you did when we were basting the skirt together. You would draw a 1 centimeter line, okay, guideline, and baste just outside that, all right? But for purposes today and making things a little easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everything prepped here, okay? So I'm going to have the front pressed out nice because it's a disaster. It's all wrinkly. And what I'm going to do instead of basting everything together is I'm going to pin everything. And so we can work over at the machine very efficiently instead of coming back and forth, okay? I'm going to go over to the machine with my pins and my skirt pieces, and we will pin and just do everything all at once there, okay? I think that makes it really efficient. Like I said, I'm not like, when I sit down at the machine, I just want to get it done. I'm not a big sewing machine person. That's the thing that you probably should know is I'm not big on the machine. So I like to just get over there, knock it out, and get on with the tailoring. I know. But we'll have to go back over. We'll have to go back over a couple times because obviously we gotta press the hem up, okay? But let's knock this out over at the machine together all at once, at least the seams, okay? So I'm gonna finish this pressing here, and then I'm gonna meet you back over at the machine, and we're gonna put all these beautiful pieces together, and we'll go from there, okay? I've got the back of my beautiful skirt, okay, lining. And here is my zipper, where my zipper ends, if you will. And so I want to line this up right, starting right there, okay? And as always, I'm going to get my needle in to secure everything. And all I need to do is sew right down here to this pin. So it's not a very large amount, okay? So I'm going to keep my hand here to secure everything. I'm working with about a 2.5 inch stitch, all right, on the Juki. So I'm just going to come forward a couple stitches and back to secure that. And then I'm just going to come down the rest of the way. We'll just take our time. You want to make sure that your edges are together nicely here, meeting. Okay, just take your time. Take it nice and slow. We're sewing at about 1 centimeter. Back, as always, we have a 1 centimeter seam. And right here at the top of my vent kick pleat, I'm just going to backstitch. So that's all there is to that. So simple, right? Well, there's not much to it. All right, so we have the back all sewn up, so that's good. Now, the other thing that we have to remember is we have that goodness gracious, what's going on here? There we go. Let's get that in order. We have the 2 centimeters of inlay here and I'm not sure if you can see, but what I've done is I've put a blue line here with my chalk. I chalked a blue line 2 centimeters back from the raw edge because we have that 2 centimeters of inlay, okay? So like I said, I'm not sure if you can see, it's really hard. But what I've done is I've chalked back 2 centimeters. And so now what I need to do is I need to match the front of my skirt lining. Whoops. Come here, you. There we go. It's all very slippery. So what we're going to do is we're going to match the front, but the edge has to ride up against that blue line. Okay, so here is my waist. Okay, so I'm going to match that. And then if I come down here, okay, I've got this nice curve that's going to make me out of my mind. And I've got to match my hip, keeping it on that line. Okay, let's bring this up just a smidge more here. There we go, that's better. Okay, and then matching that line, I'm going to come down here to, goodness, to our length. Okay, so see, there's my blue line showing where my inlay is. And the other thing I did was I drew a little line back from my balance marks too, so that I knew where my balance marks would be. Okay, and then here, I'll just put another pin in the middle. So we have to remember that we've got inlay, and that's really important. Okay, and now all I have to do is, it's going to be, like I said, I'm so sorry that it's probably very difficult for you to see the blue line that I've drawn with the shine and the lighting and everything else. But believe me, it's there. So what I've done now is I'll have to have my edge of my lining here, you see, on that blue line and come back 1 centimeter, okay? Just lighten that up slightly, okay? So come forward and back a couple stitches to lock it in. And then here, now of course, if you're doing this, I would highly recommend that you give yourself a line to sew on, okay? Here on this, on the front of the lining, so that you know what 1 centimeter back is, because you might not be able to tell when you've got it laying like this, okay? So it just, having the inlay on the lining obviously makes it just that much more challenging, but not impossible, okay? Not impossible. Just have to keep things lined up here nicely. Here we go. There. Okay. Here. There's my blue line. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Here. Here around the curve. It'll be fun. Always. Curves are always fun. All right, so just bring that around like so. Just take small bites. And again, I'm just keeping that right on the blue line, okay? And bring it right up to the top here. Just get that pin out of the way. Get that lined up. 1 centimeter back on the blue line, which is 2 centimeters back. Oh my goodness. Okay. And there we go. All right. Perfect. So let me also do the other side so you can see it again. This can be a little tricky. Okay, this can be a little tricky, without a doubt. So let's look at the other side. Especially when we're working here in such close quarters with slippery material, never helps. Okay, so I'm going to try to get this right in front of the camera here so you can see it. Hopefully you can. So here's my waist, and I'm going to just pin that right there, okay, on the blue line, my inlay, my hip, come down here, there we go, it's a little better, here, pin that, I'll tell you what, if you can work with lining, you can do anything, because this is tough. This can be tough. All right? Okay. And then down here be our length. Get that in line. And we should be all set to go. Okay? So now we'll start up here at the top. All right. I'm just trying to keep this from sliding. I keep banging the camera. It's like, boom, my big hand is right in there. Goodness gracious. All right. You know, no matter how hard you try with filming, there's always some sort of debacle happening. It's just unavoidable, you know? Okay. Come forward, come back a couple. There we go. Get the pin out of the way and easy around the curve, right? That's right. That's a little bit easier without that sliding all over the place, right? There we go. Yes. Nice. Much better. So just taking a couple seconds to find that blue line again. It's not even easy for me to see. You know, and I'd love to put my sewing machine light on, but the problem is when you do that on camera, you can't see anything. It just blocks everything out. So hopefully you can see here what's going on. I think you get the idea. I think you get the idea. All right. That's it. I mean business. I mean business. Let's get this knocked out. All right, so here we come down to the bottom, and we'll just do a little back stitch, and we're all set, okay? So, beautiful. So we have that all put together. Let's get that out of there, lock that up, okay? And now our next step in the strategy, the beautiful skirt strategy, is to come in and turn up the length. So we're going to do that and sew that all the way around when we get back, okay? So let's go back over to the table and get all that ready. We'll press everything, and then we'll come back to the machine one more time with this lining, okay? Great. What we're going to do now is we're going to press out our lining here. We're going to open up these seams. Now you have to remember, when this lining goes in to the skirt, okay, we're actually going to be putting it in this way, inside out, so that when you look in the skirt, it looks very beautiful, right? So if you look at, very quickly, if you look at the at our beautiful vent, okay, we have the seam going towards the left side, okay, the left side. So we have to make sure that when we're pressing this in the back, okay, when we're pressing the back, that it's doing the same thing, all right, so that it mimics it. So this has to be pressed towards the left side, okay? Of course, it's just a very small amount here, but we want to get it right. Of course, it's always a challenge with lining, right? Always. So we'll come in here. I'm just using my sleeve board, just makes it a little easier, and I'm just going to open up that seam very nicely here, just that small seam that we have, right? And I'm going to do the same thing. Remember, when we're working with the inlay seam, okay, we said we wanted to press the inlay over the smaller seam. Just press the inlay over the smaller seam. So here, it's got a little bit of a curve, but this is going to go, here's the smaller seam, and it's just going to go right over the top, okay, so that it lays nice and flat. Okay, let's just open that up best we can. The best that we can, right? That's right. All right. And then we'll do this side, the same. Okay. Just pull that, open the seam up nice. Oi, 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 iron, iron, iron. Ironing, ironing, ironing. It's get her done, as they say in Texas. Get her done. All right. Let's see how we did. Hopefully fabulous. Oh, bring the baby back. All right, here we go. So let's just turn this inside out. Excuse me. And make sure that our seam is open very nicely all the way. And for the most part. A little bit here. Get this a little bit better right through here. So if you have any little areas that just need a little touch up, just go in with your iron. It's not as complicated as working with cloth, right? Because you don't even need a press cloth with this. But this looks pretty good. I'm not going to cry about a little bit here and there. No, that looks lovely. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to press this a little bit here and there because it got a little funky looking. And we don't want funky looking lining. Just get it here and there. So last time we're really going to have the opportunity to press it before it goes into the garment. So just a little bit here and there just to get those little wrinkles we got from the machine. And that's all we really need to do. Okay? All right, so now on to the next step in our master plan, right? So we said that we wanted to come in here and we wanted to basically come off of our length, okay? We wanted to come a centimeter up from our length, okay? Because so that when we turned the length up in the lining, all right, it wouldn't be visible on the outside. So we're going to just make the lining a teeny bit shorter in length than the skirt, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to give myself a little bit of a guideline. So as I go around, I know that I am, as I press this, that I'm 1 centimeter higher than the original length. And I'm just using my notch as a placeholder, okay? Using my notch. So you can see here's my notch, and I'm coming up 1 centimeter higher than that, okay? Here. And then just following that around so that it's nice and even. Okay? Very good. Let's make sure. I think I'm off a little bit right here. Yeah. Okay. All right. So there's there. And then we can do the same here. Just going to come up 1 centimeter and mark that. The most important thing about doing this is you really want to make sure that you're even all the way around so that your lining, doesn't end up being longer someplace than it should be. Okay? So there's that. I just have this one little panel over here, which already is creased because we sewed it or pressed it up earlier, so I don't even have to do that. All right, so here, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fold that up on my line and press that here on this line, press it. What you can also do to double check is you can just take your ruler and just measure it back. So here mine should be 6.5 all the way through. 6.5, yeah. Yep, 6, yeah, 6.5. All right, there's that. And then measure it through here. So we have to just take a small little bite at a time. Remember, it's slippery, so it's going to be a little challenging at times. There we go. I like doing it this way, taking up the hem this way. I've tried doing it in different ways, but this seems to be the cleanest way of going about getting your lining to sit right in a skirt, at least, in a skirt. We're doing lining in jackets and waistcoats and trousers. It's a little bit different than here. So, but in a skirt, this is what I've found that works the best. It's the most effective. Okay, there and there. So we've got that. right? So now we've got that all the way around. That looks pretty nice. Yeah? A little off here in my lining, just a tad. Not going to worry about that too much. All right? And one more time, we're going to go to the machine, okay? But what I'm going to do is now I'll mark a centimeter down off my edge here, okay? So what I've done is I've folded up the lining and I've pressed it, right? Well, I don't want a raw edge here, right? That would look awful. So what you can do is mark 1 centimeter back with your chalk, okay? And then fold that down and under. Yeah, like so. So here's my 1 centimeter. And I'm going to press that down. Okay? And that's where I'm going to sew. That's where I'm going to sew. I'm going to top stitch that. So when you look inside the skirt now, right, this is what you'll see. You'll see this nice, clean, beautiful hem, okay? And because it's going to be top stitched, it won't it won't get caught on anything, which is really nice. It won't get caught. So now that's going to be about 4.5. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to turn this in. Just want to measure, make sure it can come down just a little tiny bit more. Here. Right? Yep. So I'm just measuring to make sure that what I'm turning under, it's even before I press it. Here, should be 4.5. That's spot on. Oh my goodness, and after we do all this, it's back to the old sewing machine to top stitch this down. Brilliant. Preparation, preparation, preparation. That is for sure. There's a lot of preparation. You know, if you want to do it right, okay, there's a right way and a wrong way. If you want to schlep a skirt together, you could do it in a day, trust me. But we don't want to schlep anything together when we're tailoring. We want to take pride. We have a sartorial standard that separates us from everybody else, okay? And so we have to hold ourselves. You know, it was going so well up until that point, until I started preaching. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard as tailors, right? And do things the right way. You know, there's a lot of ways to take shortcuts, but in the long run, it doesn't pay off. You know, you'll have a problem with your garment somewhere along the line. It won't sit right, it'll pull, it won't last a long time. So taking the time to do something like this, to measure and fold and make sure everything's exactly the way you want it, it's very, very important, okay? Very important. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with all that. So what we're going to do next, okay, now that we've got this all, let me show you now what we've got here, yeah? What we have is our lining, which has been pressed all the way around. Okay, so we brought the lining up 1 centimeter from the original length all the way around. What we're going to do is we're going to get on the machine and we're going to top stitch this all the way around. Okay, it's going to be very simple, very easy to go through and top stitch this because we've prepared it well, all right? And then after that, we're going to actually get the lining into the skirt, all right? So when we come back, we'll be at the machine again. Great. All right, so we're going to sew the hem of our, or the length of our beautiful skirt. And what I've done, as you can see, is I've lined up the edge that I've turned up here, okay? I've lined it up so it's sitting right in the middle of my presser foot, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use the edge of my presser foot as a guide to run right along this edge all the way around, okay? So here, I'm going to get my foot in, and I'm just going to bring this camera out slightly so you can see a little better, okay? All right. And I'm just going to start here. Hope I didn't catch any lining fragments. And just take my time. I'm just running the edge of the presser foot here along the edge that I folded down. And that's going to top stitch it and keep it really nice and neat all the way around the length. Okay? Just gonna check just gonna loosen that up just a smidgen. My tension seemed a little tight there. Now the thing that you have to be careful of is that you don't catch the underside of your lining, okay? Make sure you know what's going on underneath as you sew. Now, I'm not pulling anything. I'm just letting everything sit very nicely, okay? So I'm just guiding the lining, keeping everything nice and straight. Okay? Nice and flat, nice and straight. You certainly don't want to pull anything because you could pull the bottom up like this and that would be tragic. So just let it lay there nice and easy. Nice and easy. Come right around to the end. Keep turning it, keep straightening things out, letting it lay real nice. Okay? Just about to the end here. All right, very nice. Very, very nice. Okay, so then we get to the end and I'll just do a little back stitch here and we'll be all finito, okay? All finito. Now, just to my point, I want to show you something here. You see at the end of my lining how this was pushed, yeah? See that? That's quite amazing. This is what I was talking about with the machine. What it does is it pushes. And because I didn't base this down, okay, it pushed the lining all the way around until I had that excess, okay? So that's a terrible thing that machines do. There's not much you can do to get around that, okay, unfortunately. But you can see the seam here, you know, it's kind of tight. And that's just what happens with a machine. There's not really anything you can do to get around that. So, you know, I just kind of come through and try to take that tightness out a little bit, okay? Especially when you're working with lining, that's going to happen. So no harm, no foul. This is going to get tucked under anyway, so it should be all fine. All right? So if that happens to you, don't fret, don't freak out, don't cry, scream. It's going to be totally okay. All right? Okay, let's get back over to the board and let's get the rest of this lining finished up. What we want to do right out of the gate here, folks, is we want to give this just a press here. Let's see if we can get a few of these wrinkles out. Okay, just to a little bit of the tightness out from machining. That's all I'm doing here. Okay, I'm just gonna go through and Press this down real nice. Make sure that everything's laying nice and flat. Like I said, if I can get a little of that tightness out from the machine, great. But that is what it is. We can't really fight that much. Thank you for joining me in the Atelier today. If you've enjoyed this lesson, please do like, share, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. And in my next lesson, I'm going to be showing you how to take the beautiful lining and baste it into the skirt, as well as preparing our beautiful kick pleat for finishing. You won't want to miss that lesson. That's what's happening next time in the Atelier.